Wonder. Pages 82 through 102. Part 2. Via. Far above the world, planet Earth is blue, and there's nothing I can do. David Bowie, Space Oddity. A tour of the galaxy. August is the sun. Me and Mom and Dad are planets orbiting the sun. The rest of our family and friends are asteroids and comets floating around the planets orbiting the sun. The only celestial body that doesn't orbit August, the sun, is Daisy the dog, and that's only because to her little doggy eyes, August's face doesn't look very different from any other human's face. To Daisy, all of our faces look alike, as flat and pale as the moon. I'm used to the way this universe works. I've never minded it because it's all I've ever known. I've always understood that August is special and has special needs. If I was playing too loudly and he was trying to take a nap, I knew I'd have to play something else because he needed his rest after some procedure or other had left him weak and in pain. If I wanted Mom and Dad to watch me play soccer, I knew that 9 out of 10 times they'd miss it because they were busy shuttling August to speech therapy or physical therapy or a new specialist or surgery. Mom and Dad would always say I was the most understanding little girl in the world. I don't know about that, just that I understood that there was no point in complaining. I've seen August after his surgeries, his little face bandaged up and swollen and tiny body full of IVs and tubes to keep him alive. After you've seen someone else going through that, it feels kind of crazy to complain over not getting a toy you'd asked for or your mom missing a school play. I knew this even when I was 6 years old. No one ever told me. I just knew it. So I've gotten used to not complaining, and I've gotten used to not bothering Mom and Dad with little stuff. I've gotten used to figuring things out on my own, how to put toys together, how to organize my life so I don't miss my friends' birthday parties, how to stay on top of my schoolwork so I never fall behind in a class. I've never asked for help with my homework, never needed reminding to finish a project or study for a test. If I was having trouble with the subject in school, I'd go home and study it until I figured it out. On my own, I taught myself how to convert fractions into decimal points by going online. I've done every school project pretty much by myself. When Mom and Dad ask me how things are going in school, I've always said, good, even when it hasn't always been so good. My worst day, worst fall, worst headache, worst bruise, worst cramp, worst mean thing anyone could say has always been nothing compared to what August has gone through. This isn't me being noble, by the way. It's just the way I know it is. And this is the way it's always been for me, for the little universe of us. But this year, there seems to be a shift in the cosmos. The galaxy is changing. Planets are falling out of alignment. Before August. I honestly don't remember my life before August came into it. I look at pictures of me as a baby and I see Mom and Dad smiling so happily, holding me. I can't believe how much younger they looked back then. Dad was a hipster dude and Mom was this cute Brazilian fashionista. There was one shot of me on my 3rd birthday. Dad's right behind me while Mom's holding the cake with 3 lit candles. And in the back of us are Tata and Papa, Grands, Uncle Ben, Aunt Kate, Uncle Poe. Everyone's looking at me and I'm looking at the cake. You can see in the picture how I really was the first child. First grandchild, first niece. I don't remember what it felt like, of course, but I can see it plain as can be in the pictures. I don't remember the day they brought August home from the hospital. I don't remember what I said or did or felt when I saw him for the first time, though everyone has a story about it. Apparently, I just looked at him for a long time without saying anything at all, and finally I said, "It doesn't look like Lily." That was the name of a doll Grands had given me when Mom was pregnant so I could practice being a big sister. It was one of those dolls that are incredibly lifelike, and I had carried it everywhere for months, changing its diaper, feeding it. I'm told I even made a baby sling for it. The story goes that after my initial reaction to August, it only took a few minutes, according to Grands, or a few days, according to Mom, before I was all over him, kissing him, cuddling him, baby talking to him. After that, I never so much as touched or mentioned Lily ever again. Seeing August. I never used to see August the way other people saw him. I knew he didn't look exactly normal, but I really didn't understand why strangers seemed so shocked when they saw him. Horrified, sickened, scared. There are so many words I can use to describe the looks on people's faces. And for a long time, I didn't get it. I just got mad when they stared. Mad when they looked away. What the heck are you looking at? I'd say to people, even grown-ups. Then, when I was about 11, I went to stay with Grands in Montauk for 4 weeks while August was having his big jaw surgery. This was the longest I'd ever been away from home, and I have to say it was so amazing to suddenly be free of all the stuff that made me so mad. No one stared at Grands and me when we went to town to buy groceries. No one pointed at us. No one even noticed us. Grands was one of those grandmothers who do everything with their grandkids. She'd run into the ocean if I asked her to, even if she had nice clothes on. She would let me play with her makeup and didn't mind if I used it on her face to practice my face painting skills. She'd take me out for ice cream even if we hadn't eaten dinner yet. She'd draw chalk horses on the sidewalk in front of her house. One night, while we were walking back from town, I told her that I wish I could live with her forever. I was so happy there. I think it might have been the best time in my life. Coming home after 4 weeks felt very strange at first. I remember very vividly stepping through the door and seeing August running over to welcome me home. For this tiny fraction of a moment, I saw him not the way I've seen him, but the way other people see him. It was only a flash, an instant, while he was hugging me, so happy that I was home. But it surprised me. I'd never seen him like that before. And I'd never felt what I was feeling before either. A feeling I hated myself for having the moment I had it. But as he was kissing me with all his heart, and all I could see was the drool coming down his chin. And suddenly, there I was, like all those people who stood, stare, or look away, horrified, sickened, scared. Thankfully, that only lasted for a second. The moment I heard August laugh, his raspy little laugh, it was over. Everything was back the way it had been before. But it had opened a door for me, a little peephole. And on the other side of the peephole, there were 2 Augusts. The one I saw blindly, and the other one people saw. I think the only person in the world I could have told any of this to was Grands. But I didn't. It was too hard to explain over the phone. I thought maybe when she came for Thanksgiving, I'd tell her what I felt. But just 2 months after I stayed with her in Montauk, my beautiful Grands died. It was so completely out of the blue. Apparently, she had checked herself into the hospital because she'd been feeling nauseous. Mom and I drove out to see her, but it's a 3-hour drive from where we live, and by the time we got to the hospital, Grands was gone. A heart attack, they told us, just like that. So strange how one day you can be on this earth and the next day not. Where did she go? Will I really ever see her again, or is this a fairy tale? You see movies and TV shows where people receive horrible news in hospitals, but for us, with all of our many trips to the hospital with August, there'd always been good outcomes. What I remember the most from the day Grand died is Mom literally crumpling to the floor in a slow heaving sobs, holding her stomach like someone had just punched her. I've never ever seen Mom like that. Never heard sounds like that come out of her. Even through all of August's surgeries, Mom always put on a brave face. On my last day in Montauk, Grans and I had watched the sun set on the beach. We had taken a blanket to sit on, but it had gotten chilly, so we wrapped it around us and cuddled and talked until there wasn't even a sliver of sun left over the ocean. And then Grans told me she had a secret to tell me. She loved me more than anyone else in the world. Even August, I asked. She smiled and stroked my hair. She was thinking about what to say. I love Augie very, very much, she said softly. I can still remember her Portuguese accent, the way she rolled her R's. But he has many angels looking out for him already, Bia. And I want you to know that you have me looking out for you. Okay? Menina? Querida, I want you to know that you are number one for me. You are my... She looked out at the ocean and spread her hands out like she was trying to smooth out the waves. You are my everything. You understand me, Villa? Tu es mi todo. I understood her, and I knew why she said it. It was a secret. Grandmothers aren't supposed to have favorites. Everyone knows that. But after she died, I held on to that secret and let it cover me like a blanket. August through the peephole. His eyes are about an inch below where they should be on his face, almost to halfway down his cheeks. They slant downward at an extreme angle, almost like a diagonal slits that someone cut into his face. The left one is noticeably lower than the right one. They bulge outward because his eye cavities are too shallow to accommodate them. The top eyelids are always halfway closed, like he's on the verge of sleeping. The lower eyelids sag so much they almost look like a piece of invisible string is pulling them downward. You can see the red part on the inside, like they're almost inside out. He doesn't have eyebrows or eyelashes. His nose is disproportionately big for his face. Kind of fleshy. His head is pinched in on the sides where the ears should be, like someone used a giant pliers and crushed the middle part of his face. He doesn't have cheekbones. There are deep creases running down both sides of his nose to his mouth, which gives him a waxy appearance. Sometimes people assume he's been burned in a fire. His features look like they've been melted, like drippings on the side of a candle. Several surgeries to correct the lip have left a few scars around his mouth. The most noticeable one being a jagged gash running from the middle of his upper lip to his nose. His upper teeth are small and splayed out. He has severe overbite and an extremely undersized jawbone. He has a very small chin. When he was little, before a piece of his hip bone was surgically implanted into his lower jaw, he really had no chin at all. His tongue would just hang out of his mouth with nothing underneath to block it. Thankfully, it's better now. He can eat at least. When he was younger, he had a feeding tube. And he can talk, and he's learned to keep his tongue inside his mouth, though that took him several years to master. He's also learned to control the drool that used to run down his neck. These are considered miracles. When he was a baby, the doctors didn't think he'd live. He can hear, too. Most kids born with these types of birth defects have problems with their middle ears that prevent them from hearing. But so far, August can hear well enough through his tiny cauliflower-shaped ears. The doctors think that eventually he'll need to wear hearing aids, though. August hates the thought of this. He thinks that hearing aids will get noticed too much. I don't tell him that the hearing aids would be the least of his problems, of course, because I'm sure he knows this. Then again, I'm not really sure what August knows or doesn't know, what he understands and doesn't understand. Does August see how other people see him, or has he gotten so good at pretending to see that it doesn't bother him, or does it bother him? When he looks in the mirror, does he see the Augie mom and dad see, or does he see the Augie everyone else sees? Or is there another Augie that he sees? Someone in his dreams, behind the misshapen head and face. Sometimes when I look at Grands, I could see the pretty girl that she used to be underneath the wrinkles. I could see the girl from Ipanema inside the old lady walk. Does August see himself as he might have looked without that single gene that caused the catastrophe of his face? I wish I could ask him this stuff. I wish he would tell me how he feels. He used to be easier to read before the surgeries. You know, when his eyes squinted, he was happy. When his mouth went straight, he was mischievous. When his cheeks trembled, he was about to cry. He looks better now, no doubt about that. But the signs we used to gauge his moods are all gone. There are new ones, of course. Mom and Dad can read every single one. But I'm having trouble keeping up. And there's a part of me that doesn't want to keep trying. Why can't he just say what he's feeling like everyone else? He doesn't have a trach tube in his mouth anymore that keeps him from talking. His jaw's not wired shut. He's 10 years old. He can use words. But we circle around him like he's still a baby. He used to be. We change plans, go to plan B, interrupt the conversations, go back to the promises, depending on his moods and whims, his needs. That was fine when he was little, but he needs to grow up now. We need to let him and help him, make him grow up. Here's what I think. We've all spent so much time trying to make August think he's normal that he actually thinks he's normal. And the problem is, he's not. High school. What I loved most about middle school was that it was separate and different from home. I could go there and be Olivia Pullman, not Via, which is my name at home. Via is what they call me in elementary school, too. Back then, everyone knew all about us, of course. Mom used to pick me up after school, and Augie was always in the stroller. There weren't a lot of people who were equipped to babysit for Augie, so Mom and Dad brought him to all my class plays, concerts and recitals, all the school functions, and the bake sales and the book fairs. My friends knew him, my parents knew him, my teachers knew him, the janitor knew him. "Hey, how you doing, Augie?" he'd always say and give August a high five. August was something of a fixture at PS 22. But in middle school, a lot of people didn't know about August. My old friends did, of course, but my new friends didn't. Or if they knew, it wasn't necessarily the first thing that they knew about me. Maybe it was the second or third thing they'd hear about me. "Olivia, yeah, she's nice. Did you hear she has a brother who's deformed?" I always hated that word, but I knew it was how people described Augie. And I knew those kinds of conversations would probably happen all the time, out of earshot every time I left the room, at a party, or bumped into groups of friends at a pizza place. And that's okay. I'm always going to be the sister of a kid who has a birth defect. That's not the issue. I just don't always want to be defined that way. The best thing about high school is that hardly anybody knows me at all, except Miranda and Ella, of course. And they know not going around talking about it. Miranda, Ella, and I have known each other since the first grade. What's so nice is we never have to explain things to one another. When I decided I wanted them to call me Olivia instead of Via, they got it without me having to explain. They've known August since he was a little baby, and when they were little, our favorite thing was to play dress up with Augie, load him up with feather boas, big hats, Hannah Montana wigs. He used to love it, of course, and we thought it was adorably cute in his own way. Ella said he reminded her of E.T. She didn't say this to be mean, of course, though maybe it was a little bit mean. The truth is, there is a scene in the movie when Drew Barrymore dresses E.T. in a blonde wig, and that was a ringer for August in the Miley Cyrus heyday. Throughout the middle school, Miranda, Ella, and I were pretty much our own little group. Somewhere between super popular and well-liked, not brainy, not jocks, not rich, not druggies, not mean, not goody-goody, not huge, not flat. I don't know if any of the three of us found each other. We were so alike in so many ways. or that was because we found each other. We've become so alike in so many ways. We were so happy when we all got into Faulkner High School. It was such a long shot that all three of us would be accepted, especially when no one else from our middle school was. I remember how we screamed into our phones the day we got our acceptance letters. This is why I haven't understood what's been going on with us lately. Now that we're actually in high school, it's nothing like how I thought it would be. Major Tom. Out of the three of us, Miranda had almost always been the sweetest to August, hugging him and playing with him long after Ella and I had moved on to playing something else. Even as we'd gotten older, Miranda always made sure to try to include August in our conversations, ask him how he was doing, talk to him about Avatar, Star Wars, Bone, or something that she knew he liked. It was Miranda who'd given Augie the astronaut helmet he wore practically every day of the year when he was 5 or 6. She would call him Major Tom, and they would sing Space Oddity by David Bowie together. It was their little thing. They knew all the words and would blast it out on the iPod and sing the song out loud. Since Miranda's always been really good about calling us as soon as she got home from summer camp, I was a little surprised when I didn't hear from her. I even texted her and she didn't reply. I figured maybe she had ended up staying in the camp longer, now that she was a counselor, or maybe she met a cute guy. Then I realized from her Facebook wall that she'd actually been back home for a full 2 weeks. So I sent her an IM and we chatted online a bit. But she didn't give me a reason for not calling, which I thought was bizarre. Miranda had always been a little flaky, so I figured that's all it was. We made plans to meet downtown, but then I had to cancel because we were driving out to visit Tata and Papa for the weekend. So I ended up not seeing Miranda or Ella until the first day of school. And I have to admit, I was shocked. Miranda looked so different. Her hair was cut in this super cute bob that she dyed bright pink, of all things, and she was wearing a striped tube top that A, seemed way inappropriate for school, and B, was totally not her usual style. Miranda had always been such a prude about clothes, and here she was all pink-haired and tube-topped. But it wasn't just the way she looked that was different. She was acting differently, too. I can't say she wasn't nice, because she was. But she seemed like a little distant. Like I was a casual friend. It was the weirdest thing in the world. At lunch, the three of us sat together, like we always used to. But the dynamics had shifted. It was obvious to me that Ella and Miranda had gotten together a few times during the summer, without me, though they never actually said that. I pretended not to be at all upset when we talked, though I could feel my face getting hot, my smile being fake. Although Ella wasn't as over the top as Miranda, I noticed a change in her usual style too. It's like they had talked to each other before about redoing their image at the new school, but it hadn't bothered to clue me in. I admit, I had always thought I was above this kind of typical teenage pettiness, but I felt a lump in my throat throughout lunch. My voice quivered as I said, "See you later," when the bell rang. After school, I hear we're driving you home today. It was Miranda in 8th period. She had just sat down at her desk right behind me. I had forgotten that Mom had called Miranda's mother the night before to ask if she could drive me home from school. "You don't have to," I answered instinctively, casually. "My mom can pick me up." I thought she had to pick up Augie or something. It turns out she can pick me up afterward. She just texted me, "Not a problem." "Oh, okay, thanks." It was all a lie on my part, but I couldn't see sitting in the car with the new Miranda. After school, I ducked into the restroom to avoid bumping into Miranda's mother outside. Half an hour later, I walked out of the school, ran 3 blocks to the bus stop, and hopped on the M86 to Central Park West, and I took the subway home. "Hey there, sweetie," Mom said the moment I stepped through the front door. "How was your first day?" I was starting to wonder where you guys were. We stopped for pizza. Incredibly how easily a lie can slip through your lips. Is Miranda not with you? She seemed surprised that Miranda wasn't right behind. She went straight home. We have a lot of homework. On your first day? Yes, on the first day, I yelled which completely surprised Mom. But before she could say anything, I said, school was fine. It's really big, though. The kids seem nice. I wanted to give her enough information so she wouldn't feel she needed to ask me more. How was Augie's first day of school? Mom hesitated, her eyebrows still high up on her forehead from when I snapped at her a second earlier. Okay, she said slowly, like she was letting out a breath. What do you mean, okay? I said. Was it good or bad? He said it was good, so why do you think it wasn't good? I didn't say it wasn't good. Geez, Via. What's up with you? Just forget I asked anything at all, I answered, and stormed dramatically into Augie's room and slammed the door. He was on his PlayStation and didn't even look up. I hated how zombified video games made him. So how was school? I said, scooching Daisy over so I could sit on the bed next to him. Fine, he answered, still not looking up from his game. Augie, I'm talking to you. I pulled the PlayStation out of his hands. Hey, he said angrily. How was school? I said fine, he yelled back, grabbing the PlayStation back from me. We're people. Nice to see you. Yes. No one was mean. He put the PlayStation down and looked up at me, as if I had just asked the dumbest question in the world. Why would people be mean? He said. It was the first time in his life I thought I heard him be sarcastic like that. I didn't think he had it in him. The Padawan bites the dust. I'm not sure at what point that night August had cut off Padawan braid, or that made me really mad. I had always found his obsession with everything Star Wars kind of geeky, and the braid in the back of his hair with the little beads was just awful. But he had always been so proud of it and how long it took him to grow it, and how he'd chosen the beads himself in a craft store in Soho. He and Christopher's best friend used to play with their lightsabers and Star Wars stuff whenever they got together. And they had both started growing their braids at the same time. When August cut his braid off that night without an explanation, without telling me beforehand, which was surprising, or even calling Christopher, I was just so upset. I can't even explain why. I've seen August brushing his hair in the bathroom mirror. He meticulously tries to get every hair in place. He tilts his head to look at himself from different angles.